The Art of Safety. International Travel. Written by Yesh Jonas. Narrated by Lana Wildash.
The reason. The crazy part is, before some of you began your travels, you thought about safety in a way that is not protective of you. This from my experience when discussing travel with many of the green individuals to the experienced travellers and knowing how they move outside of their country. This short read is for the experienced travellers and those who have little to no international travel experience. There are things we must pay close attention to while travelling, and we must also understand how safety is important being a foreign traveller. By focusing on safety, you can better your experiences and outcomes because you are analysing things in proper context. What is a traveller, tourist, vacationer, and other titles or names? Do you see in one light? The tourist. A person that travels for pleasure to gain basic information, superficial memories, or anything that pleases the person touring a foreign land. The vacationer. A person that takes allowed or desired time away from home, work or business to recreate energy, rest or relaxation. Traveller. A person that moves about from one place to another on a course or for a certain period. With the internet, there is information to help every person wanting to visit the country of their choosing before they travel there. There are also backpackers, digital nomads, expats, and so many other labels and titles that people fit into, which alludes to what they are outside of their country. And despite the reasons to why all have decided to leave, it is up to you to maintain your safety and possibly others around you. With that said, I am going to keep this plain and simple for those that really want tips on safety without anxiety or fear. This may be corny or boring to many of you who have all the answers, but for others reading this can learn a thing or two because simply knowing leads you to separating from most mistakes. Rule number 1. Offend them. I want you to read this and know that your safety will offend others without trying. For example, before the COVID-19 pandemic, I would wear face masks on planes and people would really laugh, look and comment, which didn't bother me. I understand wearing a face mask is not considered normal, but I do not care about how others feel about it because I often return from international travel with a cold. If I am to weigh my options to have a cold or not to have a cold, I will always choose my health first. Please understand this will happen with many of the things you do to stay safe. The show 90 Day Fiancé with Karine and Paul is a prime example of how some people can respond to your safety concerns or responsible actions. I'm not telling anyone to not be courteous, polite, respectful or so on, but to know protection for you and to help others if need be. Rule number 2. Do not get comfortable, but get comfortable. For me, not getting comfortable means practice being aware without the fear, anxiety, and defensiveness that can happen, but enjoy your time. For example, I will sit at the beach relaxing in every way, but if I see something that looks suspicious, I will focus on it. This applies for everything, even in the airport. Being safe but aware is a golden rule. The airport. The airport is where it starts for me, and I suggest that you feel the same way because it will save your life. The agents in the airport, officers and workers all have their own desire and agenda that needs to be noted. As humans, we have good and bad days when it comes to our everyday living around the earth, which can be the same for those in the airport. This will help you with the removal, if you had any, of thinking that you are completely fine while you are in any airport on this earth. Before TSA, when entering the airport, remember anyone can walk in those doors just like you, and keeping them away from you and your things is important. The slipping of things in your bags, powder substances, handed things that you do not own, getting too close to people and being too chatty are all things that can hurt you. After entering the doors of the airport, this is when it gets serious for you, and therefore being well prepared helps, as some of you know. The nights prior to your travel planning is important to prepare what goes into your travel luggage and what should not, which many people overlook in the packing process. Checking with the airport's website is always a good thing to do for you to gain the full expectations of that airport you are leaving from and going to. Staying focused is something that takes patience when dealing with so much activity around you in an airport environment. If you have a job, had a job, a business, volunteer, or anything that requires you to interact with large numbers of people, this means you will be able to handle these airport environments. However, we all can use some tips that can help into some things we can possibly miss throughout the entire travel process. I found that being aware of things can block distress in my life, while many others who are not trying to know everything, being aware of important things. The compartments. There are certain reasons why we should lock in our minds the importance of knowing where things are exactly, and it toughens our travels. The equipment we need, the bags, cases, or things to keep our things safe, is the biggest help before touching the handles of any door with the purpose to head out to the airport. For me, I am purchasing travelling gear that will provide comfort and convenience for my travels, and this is important when placing things in categories. I am not trying to get philosophical at all, but I needed many to understand the mind functions of how your travel should be, except if you're mentally all over the place. Since the beginning of this book, it is clear to me why things work out for those who want fluid outcomes as they travel. Labelling things allows us to have travel accuracy, which is a must-have in the not-home moments during travel. There must be a section or compartment for everything, including electronics, books, clothing, shoes, hygiene products, hats, breath fresheners, and things that are only needed for travel. Story. One day I am travelling to Brazil, and the flight is about 9 hours and 30 minutes from Atlanta, Georgia, which is far. After arriving in Brazil about 6 a.m. in the morning, I could not check into my hotel until 2 p.m, so I had to do something till then. This is my 5th time in Brazil, and I had never had the chance to inquire about storing my bags at this hotel because I did not think it was possible. So I walked along the beach that morning and had my bag on me, which weighed probably about 60 pounds. I continued to just sit around using my electronics, often until things opened. Somehow there is a malfunction on my phone's charging port, and I didn't recognise that after discovering that my battery was low. Since I have visited Rio de Janeiro, Brazil before, I know not to pull out anything in certain areas because this can result in harm or theft. So, as I'm realising that my battery is dying, I had to think quickly since everything is labelled in my bag and I know what every compartment holds in it, so it was easy for me to grab what I needed without being seen by anyone. The sun really began to pounce on my body, which is causing me to sweat profusely, and I needed 2 things from my bag, which is my sweat towel and my portable charger. That morning, people are running, others setting up their kiosks, police officers walking the beat, and homeless people sleeping along the beach, and others watching things. So I knelt where I was standing, reached into my bag, grabbing everything without exposing other items in any compartment. Man, it was quick, fast as lightning, because I know exactly where everything is which did not expose me to the possibility of those around me seeing anything that day. I had to be fast. Hell, you had to be when it comes to protecting yourself in certain areas around any city on Earth. This is just an example of when your things are in place for you, it can save you in many ways while travelling. There are things we understand as important and unimportant in this travel world, and we can either create stress or stay relaxed. Airport activity. This is the place where many get relaxed on safety, thinking because they are in the airport, things are now safe. But that is false. The airport is not a good area for you to relax in, because there are two sides to every airport, which is disheartening for some, but normal for others. Valuable information is not given by many strangers, but mostly by acquaintances. This is not to scrutinise anyone or anything, but to simply point out holes in the safety of those travelling. Security screeners examples. The Philippines is one of the most visited places around the world, and there are many people that enjoy spending time in such a beautiful place with beautiful people. And despite going to the Philippines and enjoying their trip, there is something that happens to many people that leave the Philippines in which the airport security is in on the scam. The reports have come out that many Philippines workers are placing bullets in passengers' luggage to arrest them and collect fines for those arrests. Now, this is not the entire security staff at the Philippines airports, but there are too many allowing this to go on, and innocent people are to be fined and arrested. Why would airport want the stigma to be placed on them by people around the world? Thinking that they can get money from these arrests, get people caught in a particular situation, and giving their country a bad name, or not caring about anything that is done during the scam. Many tourists have put out the word about this scam, and many have opted out of visiting the Philippines because of this very reason. And if you are a person who has had this done to you, or someone you know, you will also be reluctant to visit that country. Thailand and other places have the same scam going on, that a man named Michael Jones, who has been arrested and charged for a bullet in a bag. He emphatically denies having a bullet, and his parents spent thousands getting him back to the United States. This is the scam to which many are oblivious about, and good people are targets of this scam, done in Asia, Africa, Europe, and island countries. Many people are stealing laptops, cameras, jewellery, and other things from travellers, and after beginning their thievery, they cannot stop. The fact is, I am experienced with travelling and interacting with many people that have been doing it long before me, who tell evidence backstories. Story. A friend decided to take a trip to Brazil, the frugal way, and many layovers in many airports. I have taken that route before, which begins in Miami, second is Panama, then Chile, and then finally Rio de Janeiro. It's hard for me to purchase routes like this no matter how cheap it is, but this does not mean your things should be stolen by anyone. My friend is travelling through the places mentioned to get to Brazil, which is his destination. After being on and off a plane for several hours, the last stop before Brazil is Chile. He walks up to the security area, removes his electronic items out of his bag, placing them on the tray, and after that he walks through the metal detectors he is on his way. But something happens as he is taking his things, heading to his next flight. He had to return to the security area. He would later find that his laptop and his cell phone have been taken from the tray by security workers at the airport. He soon heads back to the security area to recover his laptop and his cell phone. After approaching one security worker asking about his items, she did not know but pointed to another security worker that does examinations of the luggage. So after asking the security worker behind the machine about his laptop and cell phone, the security worker placed it in a drawer out of plain sight. The security worker removed it from the drawer, then wanted my friend to power up his cell phone to prove that the laptop and cell phone were his. This security worker intended to keep his items if he did not return to the area looking for his items, which should not have been taken in the first place. If my friend happened to be in a rush to get to his next flight, he would not have caught this removal of his things because his mind would have been on making his next flight. This weird incident left him bewildered but aware that something can happen in any of these places that he travels to. Baggage handlers. Some baggage handlers have strong ties with others outside of the airport, but many baggage handlers work with one another to steal luggage. There are areas around the earth that are not paid in the same way as developed countries, and it may lead to less developed countries and their airport workers wanting more. With such a dramatic and illegal way to gain, the feeling of horrible pay and want for more leads to this thievery. An airport in Rome had 5 baggage handlers that devised a scheme to steal luggage from the hold of a plane. They would wait until the overnight flights to steal the luggage because the people would fly overnight, and when they make it in the morning, their luggage would be gone. This happened only on long overnight flights that the baggage handlers would be gone by the time the people noticed their missing luggage. Examine the airport. According to the New York Times, actor Harrison Ford mistakenly landed on a taxiway at John Wayne Airport in Santa Ana, California, and flew over a Boeing 737 commercial airliner that had been carrying 100 passengers. The Indiana Jones star avoided disciplinary action, but the FAA required him to complete awareness training. He was also scolded by the instructor for taxiing when he was told to wait. Some airports allow certain people the privilege to operate private planes at major airports that encounter major airlines holding hundreds of people. Check the number of incidents that happened and what incidents can affect you emotionally, physically, and what dangers can possibly happen in the future. The air traffic controller is one of the most important things you want to examine, and that airport's history. This needs to include everything that has been reported or talked about regarding that airport and its workers. Landing at airports outside of your country should put you on a greater level of alert, minus the paranoia that some allow themselves to fall under. The reliable mental safe house is where you need to be, especially when dealing with the hustle and bustle of international travel. The other airport. If information is power, it is in this book for you to have mind power while visiting that foreign country. Some people have lots of power, but it can make mistakes that are more harmful than the greater dangers they are trying to avoid. I hate to give a philosophical point here, but holding out truth is not delayed honesty. It is you lying to yourself. This is about safety and enjoying your time in these international countries, which you paid to give to yourself. Transportation. When visiting many of these airports around Earth, you would realise the chaos that happens when you finish with customs and exit the airport. There are taxi drivers, limousine drivers, and families waiting, and amongst them all are bad people waiting to do bad or get over. And I know not everyone is bad, but there are those few who mean to good, and somehow they are outshadowed by the bad people. We read stories of people being taken from airports, never to be seen again, which hurts the people you love and removes your options. The ease of getting around the commotion by knowing the layout of the airport is paramount. Being directed to the very position you need to be is how you avoid this confusion when exiting the airport. Story. My first time leaving the United States of America, I examined the entire Galeão International Airport in Rio de Janeiro and how things are. I would examine many videos on YouTube, many pictures on websites, or anything that had given me an idea about the airports in Rio de Janeiro. I listened to certain people that were talking about the airport, but no one had given me any detailed understanding of the occurrences at the airport. At that time, all the visuals are collected about the airport and the questions. I put all of it together to understand how things function at the airport. These things happened 2 months before I was scheduled to land at that airport for my first international trip. It is early in the morning when I land at the airport in Brazil. It was a long walk to the customs area of the airport. I did not have many things in my bag, so it was easy for me to continue walking at a steady pace despite being faster than the others attempting to get to the same customs location before me. After finally reaching the customs location, getting my passport stamped, and being allowed in the country, I finally learned the right thing to do when exiting. There is a store that you pass to your left before you exit the 2 doors and walk down a few steps which lead you to an open area where people would be waiting in the front. I proceeded to walk past all the people, turn left, locate some escalators that I would take up to the top of the airport where the arrivals and departures happened. It was easier than I thought, ignoring all those men confronting me about rides or holding signs with Uber on them. At the top of the airport, it is still hard for cell phones to get a signal to contact Uber for their services, but I was able to, after a few minutes, located a signal, and that was used to order Uber, and off I was to Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro. The taxi services, Uber, or meeting someone that can help you with transportation to my location was at that time important for me. It is the importance of not going with anyone that I do not feel comfortable with and focusing on the safe ways to get to my destination after landing. Story. After a long flight, you want to get your things and head to your destination without any problems. But there are many airports that have new baggage thieves or serial baggage thieves that will ruin your trip and have you angry about it. The Bangkok airport caught a man named Patrick stealing bags from the carousel and walking off with them, but they were able to catch the 57-year-old thief. At an airport in Denver, airport authorities were able to catch a TSA worker taking a laptop that a passenger left behind. The high-tech cameras in airports are helping to catch thieves in the act, or at least have a clear photo of the person. Customs. Think about this. You want to enter their country, and you must be honest but not desperate, because the middle point is where you stand on your square. The people that work for many of these countries are not paid like the workers in more affluent countries, and they base this off your look and the area that you choose to stay in. Being honest is the key, as you understand that it may be some custom agents that may want to look for something from you, which is something that you will downplay by your looks and your words. The story of my friend should have been in this section because it happened at an airport in Chile. This is something that happens, but I have what many consider as an honest face that some custom agents may feel the same for you, or you might be too nervous to pass customs and to get transportation. And knowing the information about your stay is good, but you should not be too confident and know what to declare, if anything. Stay away from the things that deal with farming and agriculture, because the countries do not want any foreign agents in their country and leave all the food behind. The airports in many countries have storage lockers that you can store things in safely without the worry of theft. This is always good for when you have a long flight delay and if you want to walk around outside of the airport to keep your blood flowing while you wait. Before using these storage lockers, you must understand the time of operation so you can avoid your personal items from being trapped. Public areas. I've been discussing safety measures for years and my voice is not louder than those with larger platforms, but importance is key for you in public areas. The areas that you visit will take an overall examination, not trying to be a 007 agent, knowing where things are because you can become lax, slowly separating your mind from caution. The drinks, music, food, or things that get you relaxed can pull you away from the people around you that may or may not be watching you. The beach. When visiting beaches, the first thing I do is find a chair and get a drink in my hand. After full examination of the entire area, I choose to relax in. People are selling things, exercising, playing sports, or trying to interact with different people, and this can be for the larger beaches. The beach depends on you, and if you are alone or with someone with the same observant qualities that you have, or there are greater possibilities nothing will happen. Story. In the beginning of 2020, we decided to spend New Year's Eve in Brazil together for the first time. Being our first New Year's, we are surrounded by visitors from all over the world in this one location along the beaches of Rio de Janeiro. Earlier that day, a few of us decided to meet at the beach and spend some time along the water with people in the sun to relax before the festivities. The thing in that area is safe for us, and we are aware of safety without speaking about it because the experience we have visiting the city. So after settling in, we all begin to relax and play our music in the presence of beautiful people all around. In times of festivities in a place like Brazil that is known for their festive events, there are lots of people around covering the entire area. After being there for several hours, the fellas and I become more relaxed, especially after having more alcohol in a ridiculously hot area, which tends to create a drowsy feeling. I remove my camera from my bag and begin to record my friends for a video that I would use on YouTube to build memories about our New Year's experience. This is when something happens, and I quickly notice it because of my keen sense of safety. My friend's phone drops from his pocket, and I immediately notice, which I inform him, that his phone is lying next to his chair. He is shocked about his phone falling from his pocket. This is where having multiple people and multiple eyes around you help protect things around you when they are on the same mindset. Think about that. If someone did grab his phone and walk away, my friend would have been mentally out of place from that moment on. His entire vacation could have been somewhat ruined because communication in a country thousands of miles away is especially important. Many of us are now connected to our mobile devices, and we store everything in them that we consider as important or needed. Another story. I was told this story by a friend who frequents other countries often, and sometimes he stays there for months at a time. He and other friends visited the country when there was a large festival going on, bringing in millions of people, which mean crowds that have good and bad people in them. He had his drone with him, and he is flying it even though he is reluctant to fly his drone with so many people watching, but he decides to do it anyway. After flying his drone, he safely tucks it away. This friend is celebrating with other friends who are on the same mindset as far as safety, which helps being with people of like minds, as I have mentioned before. His group is sitting there talking about what they are going to do later that night. They order more drinks and feel good about the entire day together. There's a couple on the beach also visiting, but something happens that surprises them. The couple decides to go in the water and leave their belongings with no one there to watch them, which is not a good thing in that country. Earlier, when they first arrived at the beach, they take notice of two guys just watching everyone like they are up to something, which is the first thing that made their suspicious antennas rise. These guys are not drinking anything, they're not talking, they're just sitting there watching everyone and waiting like a predator waits on its prey. The couple walk away from their belongings without being aware of the possibility of their belongings being stolen. The moment the couple's feet touch the water, the two dash towards their belongings, grabbing them, and run off without the couple knowing. My friend and others begin to yell, getting the couple's attention that their items are being stolen, but by then it's too late, and the two quickly run off. The setup of the beach is like any other beach, meaning there is only one way to exit, and when the two thieves reach the boardwalk, there is no chance to catch them. This is another example of what you should not do while visiting a country, or even being on your own in a country around people that you do not know. And this is the reason why I surround myself with friends who are aware of their surroundings and we watch each other's backs. Continue beach safety. So much of what we do in the country we are born in, live in, and spend most of our lives in somehow creates this normal thinking in many of us which follows us on our international travels. The warning signs are there for when we gather information before we visit that open area, like a beach. There are labels, colours, shapes, visual signs and warnings that are all there, and these things can save us from ourselves or from others. For example, Europe and 40-plus countries have adopted the Blue Flag Protection, Federation for Environmental Education, which means they are concerned with clean water and safety. Things that you may not consider as important, like the rocks sticking out in certain areas around the beach, may not harm you, but you may have someone or a pet with you that could get injured. For a person to go out and swim or surf unaccompanied is a risk that you may take that I will never suggest even for highly skilled swimmers. We are at the point of society that people choose to be exclusive or separate from others, and this includes private places like beaches that also have accidents and that happen all the time. Our bodies need safety also outside of accidents or incidents that may occur, which is just as or more important for us to sustain ourselves. The sunscreen, bottled water, responsible alcohol consumption, eye protection, hats, cleanliness of walking areas, and keeping ears free for sound are major things that need focus. A thing like beach shoes are a good thing to have, or beach socks that I highly recommend, especially in poor countries that have less cleanliness.